Hi Armin. So I'm going to talk about the large volume of files that I have on my computer, and I have backed them up to the cloud. I don't have originally I had a removable hard drive, and while that's okay, it's not completely ideal if the house burns down, whatever. And looking into the future, if I ever needed to share all my files, I would need to be able to do that. So I set up, I've now backed up all of my files for quite some time now with a company called iDrive, and essentially down in my tray down here I have the iDrive here, and if I right click on it I can bring up the status, which shows that I have used 724 gigabytes of a 2 terabyte allowance. The actual files down here says 689, so I don't know, there's some redundancy there. Now what this essentially is, if I go into Explorer, in my C drive I have a folder called Scenic Gems, and in there is a folder called iDrive Sync. So from this folder down, any changes that I make in here get replicated and backed up to the cloud in real time. So in here I have, I've got some camera files just of my wife, of our trip. You won't need that, but all of these folders here are broken into states. So I've got each state of Australia: New South Wales, Northern Territory, Queensland, South Australia, Tasmania, Victoria, and Western Australia, and a few other folders, but they're the main ones. So if I go into, let's say, New South Wales, there's the pages that you would be familiar with, all categorized under that state. And then under, say, the Blue Mountains, all the folders look exactly the same. So there is a video, pre-process, post-process, and final folder. So the final folder has the actual images which are uploaded to the WordPress media library, and I have a particular workflow that works very well, going from a raw file all the way through to the final file. I'll talk about that further down the track. Just quickly in here, there is I don't really need to talk about this yet, but just know that these folders contain the raw files, and we will go through the process of all of that eventually. But for now, particularly with you going on a break, these files are massive. It was a big process to get all of these files onto the cloud. It took weeks for it to finally all upload. Now if I make changes, it happens pretty quickly because it's constantly monitoring all of these watched folders. If I make a change, this tick will turn blue, and then not long after it will turn green again to say that it has been backed up. Now you should be able to tap into this and download onto your computer exactly what I've got, so that you will be able to eventually come into Lightroom and see all the images and go through the workflow and work the way that I work with these folders, and I'll talk about that later on. But for now, what I really need you to do is potentially, as you have suggested, upgrade your hard drive so that you've got more space to be able to take on these files. I would actually, if you can, have a separate hard drive devoted purely to the Scenic Gems files, and I believe if you look up, it's called Scratch Discs in Photoshop. I don't have the luxury of having a Scratch Disk set up in Photoshop because I've got only one hard drive, but essentially the RAM that Photoshop uses can be huge. It can be like 2 gigabytes that it will use of RAM. And what you can do in the preferences of Photoshop is set up, somewhere in here is Scratch Discs. Maybe, yeah, there is Scratch Discs there. I sometimes find that my computer really slows down with Photoshop, and essentially it means that I have to shut down Photoshop and reopen it to get my computer working well again. And I do know that by setting up essentially Photoshop can use another hard drive as RAM rather than the RAM of your computer, and it can speed up the performance of your computer. So if you're going to get another hard drive, look into Photoshop Scratch Discs as well, do the research on that and set yourself up. So once you've done that, you'll then need to download iDrive, log in with Stephen, I think it's, let me have a look, we go to, yeah, stephenleeis@gmail.com will be the username, and the password is the same as WordPress, so capital K WIJIBO 1976 asterisk, exclamation mark. You should have that already. So that should log you into the iDrive account so that you can download the software, and then you should be able to download this file. So there is a backup that I do, which happens I think every couple of weeks, and there is a sync which happens instantaneously, because I am nervous with sync, because if you go and delete a whole bunch of files, it will delete them from the sync as well. So you basically, if you delete files on your computer, you can lose them off your backup as well. So I also have a backup which happens I think every 2 weeks. So if I did for some reason delete a whole lot of files, I've got about 2 weeks to realize and then go to the backup before the files will be deleted off the backup as well. It's still not ideal, to be honest. I may need to look at, once a blue moon, getting all my files onto a physical hard drive at home in the event that that does happen. But that's not really an issue for you at the moment. But just know that you'd be looking at the sync component of iDrive and setting up your sync folder on your computer. And as I said, it will probably take a week, a couple of weeks. You'll look at it and you'll think to yourself, look, it's not even working. But it does. It is slow. It's not a fast. One of the downsides of iDrive is that it is slow, but once everything is downloaded and on your computer, it does work adequately, and it's not excessive. It doesn't cost a heck of a lot. I think it's about $50 a year, so it's pretty cheap. So that's about it for now. Please download iDrive, get yourself some more storage, and get the files onto your computer as soon as you can, because what I want to do is we're going to build a couple of pages. So if it is going to take a long time, if you can prioritize the Queensland folder, because the pages that I want you to do are Springbrook and what's the other one? Lamington. Those two pages haven't been built yet. So if you can prioritize those two folders, I'm not sure if you can or not, or if you have to sync the whole lot. But if you can, get those two folders first because they're the ones that we'll need. So let me know how you go with that, and let me know if you've got any questions. Thanks.